that is. So as Megan said, here are a couple of recent headlines predicting that filings will soar or hit the fan. So what I've done, I went back, so if you haven't seen or aren't aware of this, the Federal Judicial Center has the database of all of the bankruptcy filings, the universe of bankruptcy filings. So I grabbed those and did some calculations on bankruptcy filing going back to 2008 when their database starts. So here's what daily bankruptcy filings look like by month. So this is the trend since going back to 2008. So let me explain a little bit about what you're looking at. So these are bankruptcy filings by day. So one of the things, if you're going to track bankruptcy filing statistics, they're very sensitive to the number of business days in the month. So the more business days, the more bankruptcy filings, even in an era of electronic filings. So this is the daily bankruptcy filing rate. You've got the long-term trend there. One of the things that bankruptcy filings historically have been they're very cyclical throughout the year. So you see that kind of, I don't know if you want to call it an EKG kind of thing or going on, or whatever you want to call it, right, where it's cyclical within each year. Bankruptcy filings, and this is total bankruptcy filings, so of course consumer household filings dominate. There's cyclicality primarily due to tax refunds, so this is some work that others have done showing people bankruptcy filings always go up in February and March as people get tax refunds and now they have the money to pay the attorney, and then they go down throughout the year and then they spike back up, so that's why there's this cyclicality. Note the cyclicality has become muted. It's still there, but it's not as strong a pattern since after COVID. I don't have a good explanation for why that is. A good research project, I suppose, as to why, but the cyclicality seems to be more muted post-COVID. But you see also beginning, basically post-Great Recession, has been and continues to be a steady decline in the bankruptcy filing rate overall. The Chapter 13 percentage has held fairly steady, so this is the same graph as before, just with a blue line now that's graphed on the right-hand axis for the percentage of cases that were Chapter 13s. So you do see a dip in the percentage of Chapter 13s during COVID. You also, if you look carefully, there's the countercyclicality of the Chapter 13s. So as bankruptcy filings go down during the year, the percentage of cases that are Chapter 13s goes up during the year. People use Chapter 13 to finance their bankruptcy, and when they have alternative means to pay, like a tax refund, they use Chapter 7. Bankruptcy filings, Chapter 13s, are over 40% in 2021 and 2022, which is historically a high percentage. Again, you probably want to ask me why.
Yeah, I do want to know why.
I don't know. So, I could make something up. But I don't know. This is why that's at high. You notice they basically hold steady between the mid to high 30% of all cases as Chapter 13s. Sometimes things fluctuate because things fluctuate. So it could just be a statistical blip.
Well, and I think it's interesting. As practitioners, I feel like we felt that decrease, but what you're saying is that looking at these historical rates, other than that blip, we're not really too far off from where we've been all along.
Well, in terms of percentage of Chapter 13s, right? I mean, so the orange line, you get the Great Recession, and then you get the steady decline in bankruptcy filings throughout the 2010s. You've got the big dip there with COVID, but you also see bankruptcy filings haven't recovered to where they were pre-COVID.
All right, so we promised some occasionally accurate prognostications. Where do we think bankruptcy is going?
Yeah, in introducing us, Charlie said we're going to be better than occasionally accurate. On a good day, like that's my good day, is I'm occasionally accurate, right? So, we started off by kind of talking about taking predictions with a grain of salt, and I think you should somewhat take, well, no, don't take our predictions with a grain of salt. These are right. Just like everyone else, right? These are, here's my best guess of kind of where we're going, but it is a guess. So this is a different slide. So this is total bankruptcy filings by year. So this is not on a daily basis. This is just annual bankruptcy filings per year. So, you know, you've got going back to 1980, there's a steady rise in bankruptcy filings. So one of the things I was saying at the beginning is, right, bankruptcies sometimes go up in boom times. You see there in the late 90s when the economy was growing, bankruptcy filings were actually pretty high. But again, that was because there was a lot of borrowing. You've got the big spike with BAP-CIPA, and then the dip after BAP-CIPA goes back up in the Great Recession and then steadily declines with a slight rise now since COVID, although that's a little misleading because if I go back, we're a bigger country than we were in 1980, just population-wise, right? There's more of us. So if I population adjust this, so this is now filings per 1,000 people, so you know, right? Here the scale is in millions of filings. This is now in scale from 0 to 8, which is the number of filings per 1,000 people. So it adjusts for the size of the country. And I added those lines so you could make a quick comparison so you can see that we're as low in terms of per capita filing rate as we've basically ever been since the 1978 code was enacted. So I guess there's one way I'm pretty sure we can be absolutely right today, which is there's really no place to go but up. So it's unlikely that bankruptcy there's got to be a base rate for the country, right? There's a certain number of people that are going to file bankruptcy, and it's easy to predict that bankruptcy rates are going to go up because there's really no place for them to go but going up.
All right, so they're going up, but is this going to be the tidal wave or the ticking time bomb that the media predicts?
Well, yeah, a wave, a spike, a ticking time bomb. It's somewhat in the eye of the beholder. So, you know, here are the numbers. So the biggest driver of bankruptcy filing rates, again, as I said, is household debt. There is actually a paradoxical effect. This was the paper I kind of joked around about from now 20 years ago. There is kind of a paradoxical effect, which is in the long run, household debt will increase the bankruptcy filing rate. As people have debt on their household balance sheet, just predictably a certain percentage are going to encounter the sorts of problems that drive them into bankruptcy court. There's going to be health problems, there's going to be job loss, right? You just, whatever percentage, the more people in debt, the more people then numerically are going to show up in bankruptcy court. But the paradoxical effect is that long-term, more debt, more bankruptcy filings. In the short term, like about a year, more debt, less bankruptcy filings. And that is because people can stave off the day of reckoning by putting household necessities or whatever they need on a credit card, on taking out a payday loan, whatever it is. So as there's more household liquidity in the short run, debt has the effect of depressing the bankruptcy filing rate. So where are we at? Household debt rose with the end of the pandemic. So back in 2020 and 2021, household debt's going down. After 2021, household debt starts going up. So that lays the condition for more bankruptcy filings in the long run.
Right, like similar to the credit card rate, you know, we're looking at reports about the credit card debt starting to build and build and build.
So credit card debt's going up, yeah,
right?
So it's been going up. So but the debt, the people who are going to show up in bankruptcy court today, and especially next year, are people who started to have household debt go up in 2022 and 2023, and that household debt was going up. There's also signs that household debt is tightening right now, so you've got kind of the conditions for a rise in the bankruptcy filing rate, right? The long-term effect, more debt, more bankruptcy filings. The short-term effect, as household liquidity tightens, you're going to get more bankruptcy filings. It looks like that's where we're at. So we're on track right now for 560,000 filings this year. That'll be a 10% increase over 2024. The best predictor of the filing rate next year, I said, is the filing rate this year, right? Household debt is actually the second best predictor. The best predictor is what is the filing rate. Last year, so as I try to teach my students, I teach a statistics class at the law school, so one of the things I tell my students, the intuition here is, if I made you guess the number of jelly beans manufactured in the United States this year, and you only got to ask me one question, that question should be, what was the number that was manufactured last year? So that's that same intuition with bankruptcy filing rates. So if we look at where we're at this year, you plug household debt, and then as a control, the unemployment rate, and a statistical model, a guess is 640,000 filings next year. Nobody write that down.
Is that guaranteed accurate?
Yeah, there are ways I could be wrong, right? So again, a 640,000 filings is a 14% increase. We're only occasionally accurate up here.
Occasionally accurate.
Yeah, occasionally accurate. When they asked us to do this,